I can hardly hear you.
Hello?
Yes, I can
Can you
hear
hear
you
me
better
now?
now.
You can
Yes.
hear me better now. So yeah, I looked at
Hmm.
Spacepan's comments. So let's talk this. He's really. I can tell he's not the type of person that's going to have any reason. So the point is that throughout history, there were actually laws that made women basically second class citizens without the right to vote, without the right to inherit property. Basically, is the property of her husband, could be beaten by her husband. These laws are all throughout history. And
Coverture.
what?
It's called coverture. It's called coverture, right?
Yes, and their witness, their testimony is worth half that of a man. Their price is worth that of half of a man. It's they're more unclean, and mythology against them, and basically portraying them as the seducers and things like that. So the thing is that he's saying, well, men had to work. He's saying his whole thing is that men had to work and didn't have the liberty of shrugging off their male responsibilities. So therefore, women were never oppressed and were actually privileged class because they didn't have to do hard manual labor. And therefore, they were never oppressed, and there's no patriarchy. And it was just it, and it's men who are really slaves because they can't escape their gender role, but now they are. And I looked like he blames the Industrial Revolution for feminism, which is true. Feminism took place when physical labor was no longer necessary, and when even men could start acting like women. There was, in the Industrial Revolution was, yes, when men no longer needed to be rough and tough and going out into the field and killing things and stuff like that. You were able to be an administrator or an office clerk or a machine operator or something like that, and that didn't take that kind of brutal, horrible toll. So it was first men that were able to relax and kind of be more okay. And this is where I think homosexuals, why they spring up in industrialized societies, because um, they are no longer really selected against, are they? Actually, I would think that um, as more gentle men are able to kind of keep a job and are able to support a wife and are now marriageable, even though they are not like ferocious beasts, they are still marriageable to everyone because at least they have some kind of a job and a place in the world and some status, and then education becomes a status. And you don't have to be a burly scary man to become an educated person and have a nice cushy job. And maybe that keeps certain kind of DNA alive, or maybe it does something to the epigenetics and more homosexuals start to arise. I mean, I say that homosexuals are suited for more civilized conditions, and that I think there's a biological reason why they appear in the civilized after the Industrial Revolution. I think that there's also something epigenetic going on there where the more civilized conditions produces more homosexuals because there's need for less people, and also people, it's better to be a little bit less fucked up and aggressive when you're before you were on like a dirty farm and it was okay to be a bull, but now you're in a china shop and maybe it's not the best time to be a bull or whatever. But the point is that the idea that thank you the idea that feminism, or that a need for feminism, didn't exist because men had to do all the work is just absurd. I mean, and it's just natural that men will dominate women. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're more aggressive, and in certain ways they are smarter. Yes, men have better visuospatial intelligence. They can put together a gun better than a woman could. They can, design an axe better than a woman could and kill her. And so, he naturally has domination over her. And, my whole point is that she'll never have, as long as she's alive, that she'll never be anything but a second class citizen. And that if she wants to, um, get anywhere, she needs to find a way to inseminate herself find a way to use her own egg to create more females and just have an all-female, planet and just get rid of men.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's if I was a woman, that's what I would be advocating for.
Well, I wish you two would actually talk so you can, you know, have it out with each other. Anyway,
Yeah.
I posted this link to him on Discord, but he may not be responding immediately.
Um, yeah, I think that's just a stupid argument, and I'm sure that he also thinks that homosexuals weren't really ever oppressed either, right? Does he?
Well, I think you have to understand what he sees as his role in performing a service for heterosexual men. So he is their spokesperson. Their spoke. He is their spokesman in arguing against feminism. So he is, well, he would have to argue against feminism and say, men should be given more rights and women aren't being fair, the matriarchy isn't fair. And the problem is, men ought to be able to sort it out themselves. So, it actually looks so bad that they can't. Did you listen to him from beginning to end in Coroniu?
I didn't listen.
Maybe.
No, I'm not done. I still have a while to go, but I mean, I'm picking up on his, you know, uh, thing, and
Well, anyway, I just wanted to say that he is a kind of hired gun for the men's rights movement. So, in a way, it's not surprising that he's taking the position that he has because
yeah, that's just very disingenuous, and I'm very disappointed in him as a homosexual that um he is being that disingenuous and not and being illogical, to basically say, I mean, if that's all you have, that men always did the work, and women were like these queens with all the power or something, like, okay, they didn't have to work in that, they still had to work at home, I'm sure, but they didn't have to go out and do all the scary stuff. And so, but that doesn't mean that they had any power or were treated well generally or had any rights or anything like that. And even with inheritance laws of children, it used to be the man always got the child and the woman never got. Now, now that it's in reverse, but that's usually because the woman wants the children and the man doesn't. Men sit around complaining, oh, women get all the kids. The fucking women work to get the kids, and the man, even when he does want the kids, he doesn't work that hard for it. He's lazy.
you're making these wild generalizations,
It's
Vincent.
true. I've seen enough divorces. I know why women get the children. They're like, they act like
Okay,
vicious. They act like vicious she wolves to get the kids, and the men are fucking out getting drunk.
the point is that there shouldn't be a divorce and there should be no fault divorce.
Well,
You
I'm
you don't
saying don't blame women for the fact that they're getting all the
we
kids,
don't
because
know. Well, you can't just blame it's either men or women. Every marriage has its own history,
okay, but
and
don't
it's
blame
just
women
crazy
for
to.
don't blame
Okay, I
women for
won't.
getting all the kids because they actually deserve the kids.
Well, not if they're an unfit mother.
Well, the father is more unfit usually.
Okay, so you actually contradict yourself. On the one hand, you're now kind of being you're white knighting for women, and then on the other hand, you're going to abolish women. So
Yeah, well, but I don't
so it
think
doesn't matter what you say because you contradict yourself. On
no.
the one hand,
No, it's not. It's one thing to say that no, women are not women. I don't want to get rid of women because, like, I
it doesn't
told
matter what
you,
your ultimate purpose is to abolish women.
yeah, but that doesn't mean that I hate them or that I
Yes,
think
of
they're
course it
bad.
does.
No,
If
it's
you no,
well,
if you
the more
say
I
I'm
think of,
gonna kill you, but it doesn't mean I hate you. I mean, well, why should
no,
I care?
they're just Look, okay, I would prefer a world of women over heterosexual men. I'll tell you that much. Okay, I would prefer
Well,
that. I would,
really,
I
you're a gay man and you want the world to be all women.
rather than heterosexual
You
man.
contradict
Yeah.
yourself again.
Okay, what
Um,
about okay? I'd rather it be all women than like MGTOW men. Let's okay. How about this? What about this? MGTOW men pick up on my artificial womb technology shit, invent it, and then MGTOWs take over, and it's just straight men who never have sex and are just a pack of fucking assholes. How about that, Claire?
no, we just want men and women and we want to have the laws
No,
to
but I'm saying I would be against
privilege.
that. I'd rather women take over and be this become an all woman planet than MGTOW pick up the artificial wombs.
Okay, but neither is going to happen. And I have to wonder at your purpose in creating these fantasies instead of being constructive. I suppose you do it to have a sense of power, you know, your ability, or you hope to change society.
Well, yes, something has to happen because the way it's going now is really not good, and it's just not acceptable. And yeah, I'm not a heterosexual. I don't find it acceptable. Like, I just think it needs to be fundamentally changed. And I'm not going to just say, oh well, this is the way of the world, like you said on our other stream. Like, yeah, I'm saying, well, then the world needs to be fundamentally changed, and the human race needs to be fundamentally changed through eugenics and genetic engineering. And I think that homosexual men, since they don't have this fucking, relationship with the woman, are better adept at doing this than, heterosexual men that they want to have sex with her, but they want to love her, but, and they can get, and then they get drawn in and they actually are turned on by the fact that she's a drug addict and an alcoholic. They actually want her into that lifestyle, and so they're forced they fuck up the baby. It's really complicated, and we just don't have that problem. I'm sorry, but a gay man going out trying to find a woman to be the surrogate for his kid doesn't want a woman who's on drugs every day, and he's not going to want that.
What do you think the birth rate is going to be like, if people reproduce in the way that you propose?
Well, it
It's going
depends
to
if
go,
it
it's
would
going to go
depend.
down, isn't it?
It would depend if it was artificial wombs. No, it wouldn't go down. If we have to use surrogates and we have to pay women, I think that we could keep it at 3 kids, per couple. I mean, at least if you make that, kind of a goal and that thing, it's because they're not getting back into marriage, and I'm giving these
Why not?
alternate.
Why not? They can easily be persuaded if you have control of the media.
No, you always say that. There's no way to get these people back into marriage, and I'm going to fight that because I don't want them to be in marriage. That's just absolutely abhorrent.
But so don't get married.
Well, they don't
To a
want to get married.
woman.
No, they don't want to get married either. So all I need to do is give them the freedom not to get married and the ability not to get married and the privileges of not getting married, and I win. So the only thing they're missing is fecundity. So the only thing that they're missing now is the ability to have large families, and just give it to them somehow. Give it
I
to them
wonder at your
somehow.
I wonder at your motive because what you propose will be so high maintenance and inefficient
It wouldn't
that
be inefficient. It would be higher maintenance, but you get a higher yield. Yes, and it
you
is.
haven't done it. You can't prove all the things you claim.
I can prove that you can buy surrogates. I can prove that.
Yeah, but how much did it cost Elton John to?
Well, it would, yeah, well, you have to pay for a wife anyway. I mean, you would have to pay for a wife and a
Yeah,
house
but
and,
but yes, but then she's kind of included in the package of doing a whole bunch of other stuff.
well, then, make this more standard. Make it a standard way of life, and make sure that everybody's doing it. And also, like I said, you would do it collectively. So instead of getting each woman her own house, you would get an apartment, and each woman would get an apartment. It's easier to house 1,000 women and 1,000 in I don't know how many thousands of square feet, and pay for all the water and the heat in that way than to pay for all the water and the heat in all the separate houses and have to mow all the separate lawns and keep all the separate pools and all this different kind of stuff. And it would be a lot cheaper to do it collectively. So if we did these things collectively, then we could afford to house them and give them a salary, and they would take care of the kids, and that's it. I mean, this is obviously another way because
No, no, no,
artificial.
but Vincent, don't you see? If a man's going to pay for a woman, he'll want to have sex with her. He'll want
Not
to be
anymore.
around.
That they realize that no, they don't want to have kids with the women they're having sex with. So you know this well then take secular Quranism. If you're not going to do it my way, take secular Quranism and go back fucking under the law, and good for you. I mean, then if you want to, that's what you want, then do it, because there's no other way. They're not. What are they going to do? They're not going to start getting married tomorrow. They're not doing it unless they adopt secular Quranism, Claire. But I don't really foresee that happening.
Well, they're obviously not thinking about it. They're just putting it off. But isn't that the problem? That the birth rate is declining, and the longer they put off um, marriage and having children, the worse the situation is going to get. So obviously, the situation has to be corrected, the matriarchy challenged and defeated, and that is the purpose of my political activism. It is to restore the patriarchy. I also understand that men aren't interested because it's now normalized not to be interested in parenthood.
Well, what do they have? So the only thing that they have besides secular Quranism is Islam or cultural Christianity, with or implementing Old Testament law. But then you have the problem when you implement Old Testament law as a Christian. Why aren't you implementing all of them? Why are you only implementing some of them? It gets a little bit stupid. You know what I mean? To like implement those laws, but and then you're called a Judaizer, but that's they're really only other option, or the Noahide laws, and that's the only way that they're gonna you know change it. And are they going to go that way, or are they going to be futuristic and think of something more futuristic and different and new? I mean, what do you want? Do you want to try to escape this or not? And I'm giving you the way to escape, and I'm not necessarily talking to the same crowd that you're talking to, and I won't necessarily talk to as many people. We're on different crowds. I'm looking for something smaller that will take a generation or two or three to accomplish, and you're looking for a really quick fix.
Well, it would be quicker than your fix because people can imagine um, secular Quranism because they know of traditional societies that practice Sharia. So they have some theoretical idea of how what I'm doing, what I'm proposing
Well, you also
could
act
be
like
like.
everyone. You also act like every single last person in society is a total conservative, and would just be like, "Oh, definitely, I'd rather women be whipped in public than invent an artificial womb." Like, it's. I don't think that everyone in America would rather. I don't think if you said, "Would you rather artificial wombs be reproduced, or would you rather live under Sharia?" I don't think every single person is going to say Sharia.
Well, I think they'll find my solution more understandable, and they'll be a little puzzled at yours.
Well, I mean, it is something new, but that doesn't mean, new things do happen, and you still don't have anything against Mormonism, even though your only thing against Mormonism is that it's new. And,
Well, that is idolatry.
well, I know, but I mean, just because something's, just because they believe in a physical God doesn't mean that there's necessarily anything wrong with the religion, and the way it makes you behave.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's got a very complicated belief system. Like, oh, we can all become gods after we are dead, and it's really weird stuff.
Okay,
And it's
well, it's getting interest. Well, what would you do if all these right wing white men just said, okay, well, we're becoming Mormon en masse, and we're going to fix this with Mormonism?
Well, the same problems would recur because the reason why Mormons were persecuted was because they were polygamists.
Yeah, but they're not anymore. And I think that they actually, I think if the Mormon Church reinstated polygamy, they would actually become much more popular, and they would attract. And actually, I would say that there should be a resurgency in what's called the Fundamentalist Church of Latter Day Saints, and they still practice polygamy and all the old things. And then you have the really crazy Mormons that still do blood atonement and will kill you if you marry a black person or something like that. Let's look up Mormon blood atonement because I did watch a lot about that. Mormon blood atonement doctrine. Let's see. Blood atonement. Yeah, it has its own. It has its own old Wikipedia article. Ooh, and it's long. Actually, it's extensive. Look up blood atonement on This is like real old school Mormonism though. But like if they brought this kind of shit back, killing you if you leave, and it probably had everything. It probably even kills you for being homosexual and everything like that. Capital punishment in Mormon scripture and ritual. So they do have capital punishment. Okay, well we know. Let's say if they brought back old school Mormonism and then they had blood atonement, and then it would be racist because here. Let's see if it says it in here about black. Okay. In speech before Utah Territory legislation on February 5th, 1852, Young appeared to advocate the passage of a law that required decapitation for whites who were condemned by the law of miscegenation with black people. He told the legislature that miscegenation was a grave sin that would bring a curse upon a man and all of his children that were produced as a result of the union. He said that if a white Mormon in an unguarded moment should commit such a transgression, decapitation would do a great deal towards atoning for the sin. It would do them good that they might be saved with their brethren. He said, it is the greatest blessing that could come to some men to shed their blood on the ground and let it come before Lord as an atonement. So let's see. Okay, and then they have a whole, what's it called? They have two Wikipedia articles, one on black people and Mormonism, and one on interracial marriage in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, I do know that some Mormons, even in modern day, regular mainstream Mormonism, are against miscegenation. It still exists. I don't know if it's any longer the church's official policy, but racism does exist in that church. And so what if they said this, Claire? What if they said, you know what? We're going to old school Mormonism. Ooh, Mormonism and slavery, history of slavery in Utah. Mormonism is a very fascinating topic, I have to say.
Well, it's a made-up religion.
So is Islam.
Well, that's not what Muslims believe. I mean, they think it's from God.
Okay, but Mormons think that it's from
And
God.
no. I mean, it's all been translated, and Joseph Smith made up his thing, and obviously polygamy was popular for certain men, right?
Yeah.
And and,
But
and and I don't think it's because they really believed in the story of Mormonism. It's like, well, I want to be a polygamist, and if I really want to do that, I'll become, being a Mormon would help me get my way. It's not that they believed in it. There's always a hidden purpose behind people changing their religion.
Looks like they
And,
have
and, and
their.
then the rest of America decided they weren't going to allow it. They weren't going to be outnumbered by polygamists
Well, if it came back,
stealing their women.
it would be based if it, for these boys, if it came back. And they have varying, it seems like sometimes they allow slavery in Mormonism, and they were told, at first they were against it, but then there was new scripture revealed that said not to interfere in it.
Well, you
Um,
see, yes, there you go. They keep changing their minds, and this is conclusive evidence that it is fake.
Curse of Ham, they believe in the curse of Ham.
What does that mean?
The curse of Ham, you don't know what the curse of Ham is?
I can't remember. Is it something to do with Noah and his son and seeing
Yeah,
his father naked?
yeah, and then he turned his son Canaan to have black skin, and that they would be the slave of Shem. I mean, I can't believe you don't know the curse of Ham. But
I just don't see its relevance. What is just saying, oh, black people are inferior or bad or something?
and or are the slaves of the world. They're like the slave people.
Okay, but this isn't. I suppose white people who are, well, white nationalists quite like that verse.
Yes, it's played an important role in how whites and blacks, interact. So I don't think I don't see how you think it's totally irrelevant. I mean, it's racial theology and has, that's played a role in how we developed to a really great extent. And it's not nothing, and it obviously helped shape Mormon theology on slavery too. So, and how you feel about slavery is a big part, and also how you feel about race is a big part. I mean, the thing is that Mormonism has, at least in its old form, in its original form, racialism, whereas secular Quranism doesn't.
Yeah, but secular Quranism has more. It's more likely to get official backing because it's sort of more mainstream than Mormonism. Okay,
Mormonism is
but
one of the
Mormonism
one is
has.
the Mormonism is number one of the fastest growing religions in the world, and number two, it's you can see with Stephen J. James and then what's it called? It's there's even Mormon Macs that are now inside that Telegram group. I keep seeing on Facebook they're all posting this shit about Mormonism. That's why I wrote that article, because I'm actually like concerned about this, that they're actually taking this into consideration.
They're taking what into consideration?
Mormonism.
Oh, you mean you okay? Do you want Stephen James to become a Mormon or not? I mean,
No, no, no. I don't want anyone to become a Mormon, but I'm just saying that maybe if they would had to make a selection between secular Quranism and Mormonism, that they would just go Mormon.
well, yeah. If they're racists, it's like, well, anything is better than the Abrahamic religions, which are Jewish, and oh, we're white. We live in America. Mormonism is the first proper white American ethno religion. I can see them using these arguments. Yeah, I
Let's
can.
okay. Let's look up capital punishment in Mormonism. Capital punishment in Mormonism.
But I mean, it
Uh,
wouldn't work in the UK, and Stephen is British. Unless you can sort of imagine, European nationalists saying, yes, we'll become Mormons. But I don't think they're going to go that way. But there's a play in the West End called The Book of Mormon.
yeah,
And I
there is.
think,
Yeah, it makes fun of the Mormons, and I don't know how, but I'm sure it's not done in a very
pro
notable.
Mormon way.
No, I'm sure it's not done in a very clever way either, because I mean it's mass marketed towards the masses. I'm sure it's just about, oh, they wear magic underwear and like you know kind of stuff that's not that important. No, oh, we don't drink tea, we don't allow gay people, women, kind of like common what everybody knows about them, and I'm sure it wasn't very
I mean,
let's
I do know an ex-Mormon.
let's look up the Book of Mormon play. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. The Book of Mormon musical. Book of Mormon is a musical comedy with music lyrics in the book by Trey Parker, Robert Lopez, and Matt Stone. The story follows the missionaries of the Church of Latter-day Saints as they attempt to preach the faith to the inhabitants of a remote Ugandan village. The earnest young men are challenged by the lack of interest from the locals, who are distracted by more pressing issues such as HIV/AIDS, famine, female genital mutilation, child molestation, and oppression by local warlords. The show permanent blah, 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 okay, yeah, it looks like okay, and then it looks like they start putting on stunts to get people interested in Mormonism. Yeah, it's not like you're gonna learn anything about Mormonism or anything like that, and you would just learn kind of like the shallow, silly things, like I'm sure I wouldn't be interested in seeing it.
I wonder if this ex-Mormon will join us.
Oh, Mr. Pello, do you want to come on? Here, let's put the link in. Let's put the link in the description for Mr. Pello. Maybe he'll come on. Well, let's just see. Let's just say that. Oh, well, there were a list like the Noahide laws in the Book of Mormon. Hold on. Let's see what they were. There was a most consider themselves. Okay. I have it on Stop Noahide Law. And what happened was the Mormons say that a bunch of Jews got on a ship and went to America. I think South America is where they landed, but I'm not sure. And got off the boat, and half the Jews sinned and became pagan idolaters and were cursed with dark skin and became Native Americans. But then the rest, stayed and had this religion and this good religion. And what was the point? Oh, so the point is that they kept the old Mosaic law, the Jews that stayed Jews. And then what happened was some of the dark-skinned Native Americans wanted to go back and be with the light-skinned Jews, but they were no longer really kind of like Jews anymore. So the Mormons created, the white Jewish people created like a Noahide set of commandments for these people to follow. Okay, here we. I'm trying to find. There was a bunch of lists, though. It wasn't just one. There wasn't just one. I'm trying to find Universal in the Book of Mormon. Let's see where it is. Let's see how comprehensive it is. No murder, no plundering, no stealing, no adultery, no any manner of wickedness. Okay, that's not all of them. Okay, so we have no murder, no theft, no adultery. I don't know what any manner of wickedness means, but let's see if we can find the rest of them. no iniquity, which is probably like, incest and no wars nor contentions. The Book of Mormon records a repetition of King Benjamin's standard as when Benjamin's son Mosiah relinquishes his kingship. Mosiah related that he had also punished those who had not complied with these same laws. Okay, so I don't know what no war means, but the Mormons are definitely not against war. So I don't know what this. So no iniquities, no wars and contentions, no bloodshed, no plundering, no whoredom. I remember no sorcery is one of them. Well, at least they have some of them. And then they don't drink, they don't smoke. They promote family, and there is the idea is that the Mormons are going to save America, right? That America is going to kind of be ready to be taken over, and it's oh wait here. Oh wait, hold on. Oh, these are just the different, but I don't know, Claire. I think you might be in trouble.
Oh, because you think Americans are more likely to adopt the polygamy of Mormonism than the polygamy of Islam.
Yeah, well, I would say that if you're out there and you're thinking of doing this, take old school Mormonism, take the laws out of the Mormon book, and apply the death penalty to them, and reinstitute polygamy, reinstitute slavery, reinstitute racism, and have at it, and see if you can compete with Claire Cole.
Have you? Do you know any Mormons?
Uh, mildly, but not like in a deep way. No.
Do you think that would be better for you?
Mormonism?
If it became the official religion of America, would you be happy?
No. I guess I would prefer secular Quranism to Mormonism.
Do you know what they say about gay people?
Well, they have a scale, so it goes 1 through 5. They determine if you're a 5. I think if you're a 5, you're a full homosexual. If you're a 1, you're a heterosexual. And then they have everything in between, and so they try to work with you, and they just they admit, they have you admit it, and they say it's okay, but that you have to marry a woman, and if they say if you're bisexual, just ignore your gay urges and just be with a woman. And I think basically they say if you're 100% gay, then just don't get married and just stay single and don't have sex.
But I mean, there's no punishments.
No, I mean, well, I don't know if you established a Mormon theocracy, if there would be punishments or not. I don't really know. Especially if you installed them with the no-hide laws, then there would be.
But I'm saying that it would be better for any country to adopt the best available guide to humanity. To humanity. And I'm saying it's obviously Islam, whether we like it or not, whether we believe in God or not, because because of the superiority of the Quran.
Well,
In terms of it as being a source of legislation, I'm not even saying, oh, it's just a
yeah, but
beautiful book.
very few of those things that I read on that list can actually be put into legislation. It's not like you have and I don't know where all this Islamic jurisprudence comes from. Like, what are you actually like you know, are there actual laws and not insulting your parents and these different kinds of things? And I mean, what if it's divorce?
I mentioned to you the mandatory, um, optional distinction, advisory, mandatory, and or just advisory. And you
Well,
can
yeah,
tell
but
just by the context, which one, it's like, obviously when you can't make people believe stuff.
but
Um,
a lot of these laws are very arbitrary and are not really guided. I mean, like inheritance laws, laws about divorce, laws about virginity or whatever it's called, and a lot of them are not like I wouldn't say like that they're based on any kind of like deep deep kind of philosophy. I mean, that's
no,
just a
no,
lot of
no,
it.
no, no, no. Give me one example, and then we can talk about that. Just choose
Well,
any one.
the inheritance laws. What I don't see how that's going to help society. It just seems very arbitrary to me.
Okay, from what I've heard about the reason for the inheritance laws, it sort of there is no freedom of disposition. Yes, so it means that you have to give your sons double what you give your daughter, and stuff like that. There are these rules, and the reasoning for this is that you don't want to concentrate wealth in one family because over time very wealthy families can be very powerful, and then they become corrupt, and maybe they can even become royal families, and then you will be back to a situation where you have monarchy. So
Okay, well, you don't. I don't think that the way that Islam divvies up inheritance gets rid of that. Number one, number two, you don't need to disinherit to any degree the women, in order to accomplish that. It's not like if you disinherit the women that it stops them, people from becoming wealthy. I mean, you can become wealthy through men or women. It really doesn't matter, Claire.
well, that is the reasoning I was given about the
Oh,
inheritance
that's
rules.
stupid. That's a stupid, like, the, who just came in? Mr. Pellu just came in. Let's ask Mr. Pellu. Mr. Pellu?
Hold on for 1 second.
Or perhaps Mr. Paley can explain the Muslim inheritance rules.
Yeah, hold on for 1 second. Hold on. I'm sorry. Hold on. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was trying to mute my TV because I had you on TV. I'm sorry, and it was all. I don't want to mess up the stream. I had you on TV, and I was trying to mute my TV and then talk to you because I was casting the YouTube.
Oh, right.
Okay, so Claire is saying that women inherit less in Islam under their inheritance rules in order to prevent families from becoming too wealthy and becoming too powerful, but that doesn't make any sense.
No, I
Yeah, that
didn't
doesn't
say.
make any. That's not the reason why. The main
No,
reason
no.
women inherit less because men are required to be the breadwinners, so men have to keep the wealth to be able to maintain the breadwinning status. Is it because
Yes,
about it?
actually, I agree with you, Pelu. I meant that the entirety of the inheritance rules for Muslims is to prevent the concentration of wealth. But I'm not saying, I wouldn't disagree with you about what you said for the reason for women getting half.
I mean, to a certain extent, yes. I mean, if you want to say, because you know how it's not like simple primogeniture where the one first son gets everything. It's not like that. It spreads the wealth within a family a little bit better, if that's what you mean. But it's
Yeah, but
still, but it can
what
still.
if you don't want to divvy up your, what if you just don't feel as though your son, what if your daughter's more responsible and you just feel safer with her having the money?
I mean, I think there's bequeathments you can make. I'm not an expert on inheritance laws. I think there's bequeathments you can make, but there's a standard law that once you die, it gets split a standard way, and Muslims have to accept that. But I think there's bequeathments. Okay, and if you feel that way about your daughter, you can give her stuff while you're alive. Why don't you give her stuff while you're alive then? Give her all the stuff she needs while she's alive.
Well, you can't write a will that breaks the Sharia and say, no, I want my daughter to get 50% and my son to get 50%. You can't do that in Islam?
I'm not an expert at the exact ways of writing wills. I know you can make wills and make bequeathments to a certain extent, but I don't know exactly the law, so I don't want to speak about it because I don't know. But if that, but there is a standard law that the men do get twice as much as the women do. And if you want to give your daughter stuff, give her stuff while you're alive. Start giving her the stuff that she needs and get her set up when she's alive. But let the inheritance be what it is, because the men have a certain role and responsibility in Islam, and that system is to be maintained. That patriarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Spacepan would say that, like, that's not any kind of, thing against women, and that women just need to stop complaining and, be happy and grateful that they don't have to work, and that's just bullshit. I mean, this is, I'm really disgusted that a gay man is speaking like this.
I don't know why you would expect a gay man to, automatically be, feminist or, I mean.
Well, because it's logical. It makes it. You have to have some kind of like understanding and compassion in order to be a feminist, and to understand where they're coming from and why they feel as though they've been subjected to oppression. And I said it's naturally built into the system. Men are bigger, stronger, more aggressive, more intelligent, and we're also domineering and want to control them. And so, it's just built into the cake. You can't get rid of it.
That's a good thing, because it's nature. So you're saying nature. So you're saying you can't get rid of nature. Of course, you can't get rid of nature.
Well, I'm saying, I said, if I was a woman, I would just say, let's find a way. We have wombs, we have eggs. Let's infuse our eggs, have daughters, and just get rid of all the men and just use science to reproduce for the rest of our lives.
And we'll conquer them and enslave them for doing that. We're not gonna let that happen. You really think we're gonna let that happen? We'll enslave them.
Not if they have access to technology in the West and can right now they have some social control. Right now there's some social control. If women started fusing their eggs together and being lesbians, right now at this moment, could men just run out of their doors and start slaughtering women in the middle of the street? No, I mean, they would be stopped. I mean, we're not. You don't have that much control right now, so do it now, and do something to keep control and stop those other men from breeding, spread feminism to their women in the Middle East so that they don't want to breed anymore, and they start fighting and they have social upheavals and problems, leave problems.
They'll get conquered. They won't get slaughtered, but they'll get raped and conquered. I mean, that's a recipe for mass rape.
Okay, this is what I tell them: do it or don't do it. If you want to go back under man's dominion, then do nothing. If you want to conquer this world and be free of men forever, then do it my way, and women would rule the world, and they wouldn't have to deal with men ever again. So, then fine. Then if they can't do it, then they deserve it. Then fine, rape them, kill them. I don't really care, because they're too dumb. They're too dumb.
They're not dumb. They are our mothers.
If they can't,
they are our mothers. What you mean? They're our mothers. They're the most precious thing in the world. The women are precious. They're our mothers. They're our wives. They're our daughters.
Not if they can't, they don't want to live in a traditional way, but if they can't, live outside of that, and their only choice is to be, to live in misery and bear children in misery, then, just destroy this place. Don't submit to that.
How is it misery to bear children? What you mean? That's their pleasure.
Why aren't they doing it? Why aren't they doing it? Why aren't they doing it anymore?
That's their pleasure.
Then why aren't they doing it? Then why aren't they doing it?
Why aren't they having kids?
Why are they stopping? As soon as they get birth control, they stop because they don't want to have that many.
It's gonna be reduced because they can't continue to not have kids. They're gonna have kids, and if you don't, you're gonna import Muslims and Africans. That's what you're gonna import because you don't want to have kids. You're gonna have to import Muslims and Africans.
I know, but the idea of the problem is the Republicans Look, the real racists were the white women in the 1920s inventing birth control, and they wanted to spread feminism and birth control into the other races. But all the conservative Christian men over here stopped them. If they had let us, there wouldn't be billions of Africans. And they want, we were sitting here fighting to get our own birth control rather than spreading it to
I
the
mean,
rest of
you
the
are
world.
evil. Why are you trying to kill Africans? You're so racist against Africans. What's wrong with Africans? Look, I'm a black African, and I want people to grow, and I want people to be fruitful and multiply. Like, what is wrong with you?
No, I don't want that. Thank you very much.
Well, I do. I do. So me, you're at war because I want black. I want black fertility. I want black prosperity. I want black fruitability.
Well, you're all coming here to do it and ruining this place.
Yeah,
So,
I want the proliferation of blackness all over America, all over the West, all over everywhere. And I want a proliferation of blackness.
well, that's going to be really bad. Hello? I can't hear
I
him.
mean, there's nothing else for me to say. There's nothing else for me to say.
Well, you blacked out there for a while, but um I mean, the point is
No,
that
I said it's nothing else for me to say. I didn't back out. I stopped talking because there's nothing else for me to say. That's all I'm saying. There's nothing else for me to say.
okay, fine. Well, I'm saying white women wake up and spread birth control in the rest of the world and hurry up, you know, or perish. Fine, then let feminism perish forever. Let women go back under. I can't help you anymore. I can just tell you what to do to save yourselves, and that's it. And if you're not going to do it, then yeah, you deserve Islam. And then and if women
They
are
do
just going to
deserve
let
Islam. They do deserve Islam. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Yes, they do deserve Islam. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
yeah, well, I mean, if they can't, they're not stopping it. Women are some of the biggest supporters of the spread of Islam, not just by converting to it, but also by making apologies for it. All these white liberal women and Islam is such a religion of peace, and you can't blame all Muslims, and we need to make accommodations. And okay, fine, that's going to lead to your own enslavement. So I can't I'm not here to help you anymore.
You're never helping anybody because your gay revolution is not happening. Sorry to break it to you. The gay revolution is just a degeneracy of mankind, and we can't live like that.
All we need is to get LGBTQs to start populating. I mean, so I'm trying to do it from the cis gay men populating, but I'll also promote lesbian, and transgender and bisexual reproduction and tell them to do their own program in order to just find some way to compete with you and to keep it so that we can be LGBTQ but still populate. That's basically, you're just trying to bring those two things together, and you're just counting on the fact that it's impossible to marry the two. And I'm saying if anyone's
Because
going
you're
to,
not natural. I mean, you're trying
but
to
it
fight
doesn't mean
nature. You're
we can
fighting
still.
nature, and it's a losing battle on your side. On your side is a losing battle. Like, it's a lost cause. I'm sorry to break it to you. It's a lost cause. Well, I'm not
Well,
sorry to break it to you.
we
I
do
mean,
lots of we do.
I mean, it needs to be broken to you that what you're doing or what you want to do or what you dedicate yourself to do is ultimate exercise in futility. You have to recognize that it's ultimately
Well,
exercise
look,
in
there's lots
futility.
of things that we do that are unnatural, and the unnatural way has helped us extremely. And that's my whole point, that yes, homosexuality is unnatural, and that's why we're going to do unnatural things like genetic engineering and hopefully creating artificial wombs, and if not, then getting surrogate mothers and creating a new man. And yeah, well, just like science got us out of the pit and out of the cave and gave us all these wonders and things like that, we need to take another step higher than that, and that means becoming even more unnatural. And we've done it this far. Unnaturalism has brought us this far to this place where we're even at the point where we can even think of a gay world where reproduction exists. And just carry forth, keep going into the future, and don't stop. Just you need a little bit of stability here, and that one thing that you need is to start reproducing as LGBTQs.
That is the most hideous, dystopian vision of humanity I've ever heard in my life, and I am just shocked. That's the most that's the biggest horror sci-fi shit I've heard in my life, and it is horrendous. And that's all I can say. I have to even go now. That's so horrendous. I have to talk to you later. Thank you. Bye.
Well, nobody likes it, Vincent.
Well, nobody likes secular Quranism either, but I've been spreading this for a lot shorter period of time than you've been spreading secular Quranism. You've been doing it for 14 years. I've been doing this for 3 months, and I haven't even really. I've only spread my articles to white right wing men. I haven't even spread them to gay people yet. So, I mean, yeah, and of course, Mr. Pellet is a Muslim. I don't know what Spacepan is going to think about all this, but he seems to be like a total loser. I'm sure he just wants, like, straight men to, like, just retake women and put them back in the kitchen. And, the type of men who would absolutely destroy him if he was their child, and, the only reason that he's allowed to even speak with any kind of dignity is because fucking women got liberated and then started voting in more liberal policies and started bringing in, like, a softer culture. Women's liberation opened the way for gay liberation. It was like one is hooked into the other, and that if we were in a really deep patriarchy like we used to be, he would be, as a lispy homosexual, would be at the bottom of the hierarchy and would be treated like shit and called an FAG his whole life. And and he wouldn't have the dignity to, the self dignity to go on camera, because he would be thinking, oh my god, I have a gay lisp and people have just made fun of me my whole life for it, and I have no self confidence now. I don't like to listen to the way I speak. I don't want it to be on recording. I don't want people to make fun of me. And he wouldn't really even have the confidence or the dignity to do what he does. So he's kind of, you know I want to get rid of women, but I'm not, like, I don't know, I'm not dumb about it. He's doing it in a dumb way, and basically, and he's willing, to entertain secular Quranism, and, really sees no problem with, you know, mothers being whipped or even fathers being whipped, for having children out of wedlock. This is his whole big, um, you know, plan to this, and it's really disappointing to see a gay man, on that level, especially one that's as, like, flimsy and floppy and effete and what's the word, foppish as he is. I mean, he's a very foppish homosexual. I've been looking at pictures of him. I've been watching, and to for him to be, basically calling for a return to the patriarchy is idiotic, because he would be at the very bottom of it. And I don't think that I think he's the type of homosexual that would rather all gay people go back in the closet, and, basically he would have to live a life of secrecy than to have control of the world. Like, I think he's more of the homosexual that would just give up and give in and, be like, yes, master, instead of, like, trying to create a bold new world and trying to, like, actually, change it and take control. There was this one in Dune by Frank Herbert, um, not the books he wrote, but afterwards there was these people that were genetic manipulators, and they basically created this, like, slave race for them, and they used the slave race to do everything for them, and they didn't wind up winning, but I wish they had won. The end of the thing was that the slave race were about to take control and all this other kind of stuff, and that's what I wanted, but they didn't end up taking control. But basically, at least they tried, and at least they rebelled, and that thing. And I didn't write the story. That's why the slave race didn't win. But that's what I'm saying. So you're a slave race. You're a slave caste. You're a biological slave caste. Look at him. He's obviously born a homosexual. He can't help but talk the way he talks. He looks like a homosexual. He moves like a homosexual. There's something hormonal or biological going on there. He's born to be an inferior caste biologically, at least in the patriarchal order. He's there to, like, just be abused. It happens in the animal order. There's certain males that are just treated like absolute shit. They're lower than the other males and they don't get the right to breed. Maybe they don't want to breed. Who knows? Maybe there are gay monkeys and they get beat the shit out of them and aren't allowed to have girlfriends because, they're gay. I don't know. To actually want to go back under that. I have no more respect for him than a woman who converts to Islam. I don't have any respect for him as a gay man. I don't, he's an enemy. He just, it's gonna go and side with these people and make, work to uplift these straight men who wouldn't give him the time of day. And good for you. Then you're a loser. You're like the nerd that does their homework to be their friend. You're pathetic.
Would you have him on your channel
To
to talk
thrash
to?
to
Yeah,
thrash
I
him.
mean, sorry?
To thrash him, yes.
Oh, well, that would be quite entertaining.
Well, yes. I mean, you can invite him. You can tell him I've invited him on my channel to absolutely thrash him, and you can tell him that I'm absolutely disgusted in him, and I have absolutely no respect for him, and instead of, you know, well, and again, isn't it just complaining with him? Does he actually have a set of rules to implement? Does he actually have a plan in order to get rid of this, or is he just complaining?
As far as I know, he's just complaining because the men's rights movement is just complaining and applying to the matriarchy for rights. So they're already assuming a subservient position just by applying to the matriarchy for rights. When actually the men should say, well, we're taking control and we're going to change the rules and this is what they're going to be, and it'll be direct and open. They just say this is what we're going to do, and then they're going to do it, and then after they've done it, they'll just make it official. And I think that would be the masculine way of doing it.
Well, that's just not going to happen because they really don't have righteousness on their side, and they would have to kind of like get over the fact that more than 50% of the population are against them, and and that's why the only thing they do is complain, is because they don't have numbers. They don't have like, it's not like these MGTOW men are just like absolutely everywhere. They find each other on the internet, but they have no friends in real life. All these MGTOW men are all internet fiends. They don't like go to like they can't go out to the local bar and like hang out with their group of MGTOW friends. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, they just shitpost online. But what I'm saying is really just forget the women, because in a way, in a war, the women are irrelevant. They're just supposed to spectate as the lionesses in a harem would, when the father of their cubs is being challenged by a usurping male. They just have to watch and let the men fight it out. So so the battle really is between the men who understand the eugenic purpose of marriage and want to be a married father. And I guess it would be men of fighting age who would be relevant, and then they can fight it out with each other. I mean, obviously, boys would be, their views, the views of adolescent males would be irrelevant, as well as the views of, well, I suppose men above fighting age could help, since they have resources and experience and wisdom to impart on to the different parties. So I guess there would be men who want to restore the patriarchy, and then there would be men who don't want to restore the patriarchy, and there may be men who are neutral. They just want to wait and see.
Yes, I mean, yeah, and this thing, Mr. Pello, you and Mr. Pello assume the same thing, that once I say, okay, we're going to start using, gay men are going to use mass surrogacy to impregnate everyone, that's like hordes of of barbarians are just going to come out and murder us all and rape us all. Like, I don't necessarily think that, if the artificial womb was invented tomorrow and gay men started using it, that America would turn on us like barbarians and get rid of us.
The thing is, there is no need for it. I mean, there are enough women and men capable of reproducing. So the attitude towards these people would be, well, it's too bad if you can't bear the thought of having sex with a member of the opposite sex to whom you are married.
That's
If you
what
can't
you
ever
would think.
find a spouse, yes.
Claire, gay marriage is legal because most people believe it should be legal. Like, I don't think all these people that believe in gay marriage, are just going to turn around and say, well, you've invented this piece, or either you've invented this piece of technology, or you have a mass surrogacy program, and we're just going to stop you from doing this. I don't see them doing that.
Well, once my plan is explained, they'll see that marriage does need to be supported, and therefore, marriage substitutes have to be banned, such as fornication and sodomy, as well as adultery and bestiality and incest, and all these sexual offences.
Well, I'm
I
gonna
mean,
be I'm gonna be putting commercials on TV telling women that they no longer need to get fat or out of shape or get stretch marks all over their body because they can have babies with a machine. And now their husband will still sleep with them after they get pregnant and not go for the next secretary because she looks like, an 18-year-old girl, and, I'm going to be seducing people.
we'll see what happens. I mean, it just seems so far away. Um, Millennial Woes is streaming. You don't much like his stuff, do you?
I never watch him because it's just it's alt right pop, which means that it's the worst of the alt right stuff because it's like if it's popular, that means it's for the masses, and that means that the mediocre, mid grade, lowest common denominator likes him, which means that it's just, and like you said, he doesn't allow disagreements and he doesn't allow any kind of like serious argumentation, and that's what people want to see. They want to see it's called a limited hangout. There's only so much you can learn here, and it's there to, mislead you. And I'm sure that there's nothing constructive going on over there. And, I think, I wish they would, actually, I've been thinking about it. I was fighting with Stephen J. James and calling him an idiot because he's interested in Mormonism. But now, if they were talking about Mormonism, at least that would be some kind of something. You know what I mean? But I would prefer that they be talking about Mormonism in that they're interested in the kind of God that Mormonism promotes. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm interested in Mormonism, because of the type of God it promotes.
Do you want to go and post in his live chat and stuff?
You mean get off here?
Well, I mean, you could do this thing which you want to do, and there will be people there, and they'll hear, but before they, maybe you'll get hidden or something. But isn't it worth doing?
No, I don't want to get off this. I mean, unless you're just done. We've been going for an hour. I don't know if you're done and you just want to go to bed, but I'm not going over there. I'm not going to go over there right now. I'm not going to go over there right now.
Okay.
But we'll see, Clara. We'll see. Maybe they would rather Mormonism. You say people would rather die than be secular Quranists, so maybe they would rather be Mormon.
Well, the attraction of being a Mormon as a white nationalist would be the polygamy aspect. It's like, well, we really need to, produce all these white babies, but the problem with polygamy is that the society will become unstable in that not every man will have a girl, not every boy will have his girl, and there will be kind of monopolizers of pussy, and then they will deprive the not so handsome men. and the
Well, that's the way
better
it
way.
really. That's if you do have a heterosexual breeding program, polygamy, where only a few men at the top who have battled it out for it have all the women, and then yes, all the fat, dumb, ugly, stupid, useless, lazy, uh, you know, uncharismatic men don't have any children.
Yes, but what happens is that you don't have quite such a stable society, because apparently the Mughal Empire fell because the Mughal emperors would have their harem, so they'd have lots of sons, but every time they died, you know all their sons would just fight each other.
Well, because they didn't
So
have a proper they didn't have a proper, system for hereditary, and didn't set it up properly, and it's just, and
they should have been a republic, but they behaved like a monarchy. So I think that is the problem, which the Muslims of the time did not understand. In fact, they still don't understand it because Saudi Arabia is a monarchy, is an absolute monarchy. And I think, I mean, the difference between Christianity and Islam is the different political systems they support. If you can break down all these religions and work out what kind of person would like it. So obviously for Mormons, the polygamy would attract people. It would attract Americans. It would attract white people, and I guess they have a more successful history than the Southern Baptists. But for the bigger world religions, it would be because, well, they've been around longer and have
get one.
a longer track record. Yes, I mean, I'm not being controversial here.
Well, no, it's
So
just, yeah,
I'm
longer.
saying,
Well, okay. Mormons have a higher standard of living than Muslims do.
yeah, that's because they are Americans, and obviously America is, comparatively uncrowded and less exploited than crowded Europe and,
Yeah, well,
other
they work
parts of the
together
world.
better. They work together better socially and economically to get somewhere. And 15 million Mormons have probably, you know, equivalent power to almost a billion Muslims. So, I mean, and they just built a more, prosperous empire than Muslims have done in 1400 years. Mormons have created an international, now it's an international religion. It has millions of people in other countries now. And it's, there's, it's doing really well for itself, and maybe it's a better organizing system than Islam, because Islam, just into a certain degree, it's not as impressive. You know what I mean? It is impressive that so few, fewer than Jews. Mormons. There's less Mormons than there are Jews, and they've,
Oh, exactly. I
yeah,
mean,
but
so
they're one of the fastest growing religions on earth. This is also, you take these fastest growing religions on earth that already have, power in 200 years of history, and you just throw it out and say, well, there's nothing else but Islam, and if you consider anything else, you're just an Islamophobe. When there is other
60
options.
million, apparently, 60
Yes,
million.
60 million. So there's 4 million less of them than there are Jews.
Well, so it's not a world religion,
But it's
is it?
becoming one. It's becoming one, and it has appeal to the West more so than Islam does. And
Yeah, but
actually,
only for racists, right? I mean, fundamentally, the saying, we don't care if it's idolatry because we as long as it's white,
well, the
and we're
thing is,
choosing it because it's white.
well, I'm actually, I think that, we need something maybe to compete with Islam. So maybe we should spread Mormonism in order for there to be a counterbalance. Because
But you're gonna lose.
no, I know, but I would rather leave behind warring factions than allow Islam to take it. So if that means pitting Mormonism against Islam, then I'll do it. And I'm going to
But
make
it's
it.
gonna lose already. Just look at the
Oh, please,
numbers.
you're just well, that's, I know you're not white, so you only believe in numbers. And now that there's like billions of Arabs and billions of dark people that are under Islam, you just say, well, we're automatically going to win. You don't understand that there's something deeper than just numbers. And and
Okay,
there's
I get it that white people would say, yeah, we're going to go with Mormonism because it's white. And then what about the other white people who think, well, we just want to choose the best religion for our country? And there are, question marks over Mormonism because of its idolatry.
well, I don't think anyone in America really, you know, well, okay, people aren't automatically okay. Mormonism is not what most people convert to Mormonism because they don't think of it as idolatry. Okay, they don't think of it that way, and it is so beyond anyone to think of Mormonism being idolatry that they're accepting the Noahide laws.
No,
And
because Mormons are Christian. They are a category of Christian because they believe in Jesus, don't they?
yes, they do, but so they don't consider themselves idolatrous. So I don't think they have a bigger problem with that than
No,
even
but neither do Trinitarian Christians. And the problem is that these Jews and Muslims have been holding back and not telling them. And it's like, well, then all they have to do is tell them and say, look, you are guilty of idolatry. And because you have been guilty of idolatry, your empire has declined. But, so you should make the correct decision to correct yourself rather than dig yourself deeper into your hole by by choosing an even worse religion than Christianity.
but I don't see how Mormonism is even worse. I mean, you know,
Because the Christians in America hated them.
well, but they don't hate them anymore.
Because the okay, the so-called Christians in America don't really believe in anything. I mean, if they did, then they would be able to correct all their problems, but they don't. But they are no better than atheists because they can't actually they can't even think straight. They don't even care that they're guilty of idolatry. Because if they did believe in God, they'd be concerned that they're practicing idolatry. They don't care because they don't really believe. They've always only pretended to believe. And you think it's okay. But I'm saying if you don't really believe, then you're not going to do the thing you're supposed to do. And that's why there's just no movement. It's like, oh, they're just going to complain that stuff is happening, but they won't do anything. I mean, look at Stephen J. James. He sort of knows that. I think he's decided not to bother anyway. He's just going to say, we're going to be defeated. If I marry, she's going to divorce me. And so I'm not going to bother. And that is going to be his excuse. But he will, like Duvet, remember every now and then to sound sad. And, he'd like to, but he can't. And, isn't it sad? And that's it. But he won't bestir himself to actually look for a woman. Because, he doesn't care enough. Well, these immigrants who've crossed oceans and continents to get here, it's like, yeah, okay, well, I'm here now. I'm not just going to, die childless. I'm going to at least try and find someone. And the attitude is different, and I'm trying to tell you that your beliefs inform your actions.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, obviously, yeah, if they believe in nothing, they're going to do nothing. And they don't believe, look, they became too educated. Look, once too much education spreads in the Muslim world, they're going to have problems too, and they are
No,
having.
it's not a question of education. It's just a question of what is the orthodoxy. Because if the government acted as if it believed in God, and every time they have they say prayers, and they kind of behave differently to show that they did believe, then everybody would fall into line. We're just looking for leadership. And we don't need to fight any wars to do it. We can just win the argument and say, look, if you want to rule the country better, if you want to govern the country better and be trusted and whatever, well, and be regarded as better than you are, then you have to change your ways and do things a bit differently. And once people believe you really mean it, then everything will be sorted. That's all.
Well,
That's all
I'm
it is.
well, I'm sowing division between my enemies, and I'm going to, by criticizing their attraction to Mormonism, I'll do nothing but expose Mormonism more to them, and then, hopefully they'll tell these Muslims, screw off, we have Mormonism, and it'll just, cause problems for my enemies between each other. Just leave behind strife so that because we homosexual, the homosexist army that I'm trying to create is like, we're starting off really small and, we want to have control eventually, but it's through slow growth. So we don't want anyone else especially who's an homosexual to have too much power. So like it behooves me to promote to a degree Mormonism in order to keep them at war with the Muslims so that nobody has complete control and power and you're at each other's necks rather than coming for us.
Well, what I've been trying to tell you is that if the birth rate were healthy, then people wouldn't look at homosexuals and say, oh look, they could have been straight and been bringing up families as married parents, and look at these two gay guys and
No,
they're
are you kidding
parenting.
me? Islam didn't have a problem with the birth rate, and they were still against homosexuality. Just because you have a high birth rate doesn't mean you're not anti-gay.
Well, we don't know. Okay, we know that the Ottoman Empire was quite tolerant towards
Yeah, there were
gay
instances where
people.
I know that like there's these breakouts of, because that always happens because people get tired and, a lot of men really are gay and a lot of men are actually bisexual and every few centuries they get tired of hiding it and also like, they become civilized and so,
No,
it's
okay,
just,
they become decadent. What you mean to say is that they become decadent and they think they can
well,
get away with it, and they try it and they like it and they keep doing it, and then everybody does it, and then they discover that they're suffering
well then
from the
have
disease of
children.
degeneracy.
Then have children. I'm sorry, if gay men can't put it together, if they can't put two and two together, then you are right. Then Islam should win because you can't have both. I mean you have to have both. If you are gay and you don't want to slip back under the yoke, then you need to marry homosexuality with reproduction. No other way. Don't listen to me. Then go down the drain and then you just if then homosexuality is decadent. If you're that fucked up that you can't see what you have to do to hold on to power, then what you have no right being in power because you can't maintain that power. You
Yes, well,
can't.
who are you addressing? You're talking to homosexuals?
Yes.
Okay, well, homosexuals are not supposed to be in power because they're sex offenders.
Well, let's see if they don't take my suggestion, then yes, they will. They are going to fall again, and everything's going to come back the way it was. And people might like this time be even worse because they'll see what happened and they'll get scared and say, "Oh, well, we don't want globo homo again," and then they'll really pin down and then and it was your own fault. You weren't radical enough. You weren't foresightful enough. You didn't focus on seriousness enough. And, I mean, that's why I'm, trying to
Yeah,
spread my message.
okay, if I were gay, I mean, it's sort of like it's already a given that I'm not into having offspring. Otherwise, I would be
Well,
heterosexual.
they do. No, they do have offspring, and plus, there's plenty of gay men that do wish that they could have kids, but they don't because they can't afford a surrogate. But also, they don't want to have sex with a woman, and but that doesn't mean they don't regret having kids or that they don't want to have kids. Like lots of them do, and lots of them do get surrogates. And if it got easy and cheap to have kids, and they would do it.
Yeah, so would heterosexuals too, do it if it were easy and cheap,
Yeah, well,
right?
it's not easy and
But
cheap
it's
for
going
them
to be
to.
worse for gay people
Yeah,
because
well,
there's
well,
so much they have to do in order to, get a baby. Much more than heterosexual people, and so that is the problem of your
well,
plan
yeah,
getting off the ground.
Well, then they don't deserve it. This is I can only preach to them, and if they don't want to listen, then no, and I will be aggravated with them and disgusted in them, and they'll deserve what they get. They'll deserve exactly what they get, and there's no two ways about that. And that's exactly what Spacepan wants. Probably he probably just wants gay people to not get like any kind of power and just slip back into the way things were and allow secular Quranism to slip into Islam. And I'm sure he would be happy as a pig in shit. And he would go into the closet and lie and hide and be made fun of for his lispy voice and never be taken seriously and never get any high position of power because they're not going to trust a homosexual to be in any great capacity. They're not going to elect him as a national leader, and all these men that he's rooting for are just going to abandon him. And that's what he chose, and he chose not to fight. And even if I'm not going to win, I'd rather go down fighting than just do what Spacepan's going to do and just become their slave and their spokesperson. He's kind of like a black person, these black people that actually do believe that white people are superior and who want to be their slaves and who like work for Nazi organizations and promote black hatred and shit like that. Like, he reminds me of that type of person, like worse than an Uncle Tom. Like what he reminds me of? He reminds me like almost like, a black man who wants to be a sex slave to like straight white men and like, and just like lick their boots and shit.
I think technically he is higher in status than you because straight men are benefiting from what he is doing, I guess. I don't know if they are or
Well,
not,
he
but I
doesn't.
mean,
I don't care that he has more status there, but still, he's very low status. If he thinks that he has any kind of status, then he's ridiculous. And he's just like, you told me by becoming a Hindu, I became an untouchable. By him becoming a straight man's rights activist, he's the untouchable. He's the lowest of the low in the activist community. He's lower than a man who doesn't have children. He's lower than a straight man who doesn't have children. He's lower than a woman. He's loathed more than women are. And if who would they get rid of first, though, women or homosexuals? It would be homosexuals. What problem do you want to take care of first? And that
yeah,
would be the first
but
problem.
then he would be credited with being useful to heterosexual men more than you would be.
They're not really going to appreciate that, and I mean, they don't really take him seriously. And
Well,
you know,
if there were justice in the world, they would say, well, Spacepan has been more useful to heterosexual men than you have.
well, well, no, they are more. Okay, well, saying that he's above me in status isn't saying much. If I'm the lowest of the low, and he's one rung above me, I don't think that's a very good, what's it called, deal for him. But he's taking it because he's a pathetic example of homosexuality. He's a homosexual who has taken upon himself the position that he's a second class citizen and that he shouldn't be in power and that he should just be subjugated, socially, illegally, and all these other kind of things. And so it's just.
Well, okay, I think he probably got into all this, because he has a degree in philosophy, and he has very strong feelings about losing his foreskin. And because he, speaks so strongly and bitterly against losing his foreskin, anti-Semites in the men's rights movement thought he would be a good idea to get him to speak for them. But actually, it's more a sign of the degradation of white heterosexual men who use a gay man to speak for them. It is actually a sign of the degradation of heterosexual white men.
Yes, it is that the fact that they can't speak for themselves and that they have to get this, foppish, lispy, low class, or low status homosexual to speak for them, and he's the only one that'll show his face, and he's just, it's actually disgraceful because you're taking a gay man who, also is low status and having him attack women, and it's just, it's disgraceful. It's a disgraceful look for him and for straight men, and this union is just disgusting, and he just seems to be like a piece of shit to me.
Well, I think they use him to attack women because they think, well, if women won't shag you, you're not going to mind. But if women that won't shag us, we're going to mind because we're heterosexual. So I think the nature of the bargain has become clear.
That's
But
gross. That's
it
gross.
reflects
So
very badly
okay,
on.
so he's going in and saying, "Oh, don't worry, boys. I'm going to make sure you all still get laid. That you'll be able, your opinions will get across through me. But don't worry, the girls are still going to want you." Like, what kind of fucking jerk is that?
Well, what kind of. Well, it's actually more disgraceful for the white heterosexual men who are using him, right?
Yes, it is, but it's also disgraceful for him. It's like, to just, to be working with them on that, like, what does he have in making sure that straight men can get laid? And then there's also, is he one of these gay men that like loves straight men and wants to only serve straight men and like fantasizes about blowing straight men all day? He's probably, yeah, that's probably his whole shtick. He's probably one of these gay guys that, it's, I'm not into it, but it's a fetish in the gay community. Some gay, do you know that there's gay men who will only sleep with straight men?
Oh,
Um,
oh, I didn't
yeah,
know that.
yeah, there are. That it does happen. It's not like common, but it does happen. It is a subset, and like, if you go into gay chat rooms, like I'm looking for a straight man, it's kind of like, I don't know what, I don't know. Maybe it's a status symbol, or I don't know. Maybe they feel as though, they're so great that they were able to turn a man, and so, it's kind of like when a woman wants to turn a man gay. And I don't know why she would want to do that. I don't know fucking what the fuck is wrong with her that she would even want a gay man, but I think it's just as bad for a gay man to want a 100% straight man. I mean, it's different if the man is actually bisexual but just says he's straight. You know what I mean? To keep status, that's different than actually trying to seduce a man is straight and like trying to get him to fuck you. I mean, just leave him alone.
Hmm.
Um, but he's probably that type, and he just seems like sleazy and oily, and I think that women should unite against him, and I would unite with women against him, and basically, he's not good for my agenda. I mean, I don't want gay men. He's a gay man, so he has some talent. He's well spoken enough. He has some linguistic skills, and they're being used in the wrong way. He's not too ugly, and he just unfortunately is using his abilities, his gay gifts, in the wrong way, and I hate to see that. And I would very much like, attack him and try to discredit him. And I know, they just view him as a joke.
No, I think they must think he's very useful because um, he's quite scathing about women, and any heterosexual man would fear to say you know what Spacepan does.
Well, yeah, but the fact that he's the one that took up, their mantle, and you know what I mean. Just because I want to create artificial wombs and get rid of women doesn't mean that I'm gonna, I don't want to abolish equal work for equal pay. I don't. I actually want to use women against the men and give them more freedom, and you make them more headstrong and things like that. I don't, want these men getting any kind of control, and so.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's just, it doesn't, it's not, it doesn't work in our favor, and he should be a little bit more, um, you know, be what's it called? Be creative, be innovative, try something new. I mean, you are new, you're gay, you don't fit in with this. You're not made for this. Like that, they're not creating a world that wants you. Like, why are you fighting for them when they don't even want a world that will accept you? Like, what kind of fucking freak are you? Like, how low are you? That
It's just being
that
useful.
how low are you that you're gonna go work for people that are not gonna create a world that's like accommodating for you?
I suppose that they're being quite accommodating so far.
No, well, they're only like going on his show and like laughing at him because he's like attacking women for them, and it's not like a genuine appreciation. It's more of like, well, at least the FAGs and the women are fighting each other now. It's not like they have any affection for him.
Well, I couldn't say, but um, I suppose he is using his position to be politically useful to straight people.
Well, he needs to be like destroyed, I guess, and needs to be put in his place. So why don't you arrange a discussion between the three of us so that um you know basically he can be called out. And
Did you respond to his comment?
to what comment? I didn't respond there. I'm responding here in this video to his comment. I couldn't comment on Odyssey, but or whatever it was, but I responded it to here. He left a comment, and I just responded to it. He's saying that men have to do all the work, and so therefore, men are in bondage and stuff like that, and you know, you know that well, they don't have to do all the work anymore. Number one, number two, that doesn't mean women were treated well. Just because men had to do the physical labor doesn't mean that women were treated well, and they weren't treated well. And obviously, they weren't treated well because they want revenge. Naturally, I want revenge too. Do you really think I don't understand that women want revenge? I mean, I would rather see women get revenge on straight men than anything else. You know what I mean? I mean, if gay men aren't going to win, I would rather see women get revenge on straight men. If I can't win, then let the women win.
Well, I find your your motivations a little hard to understand.
Well, I'm just saying, yes, I want revenge, and I think women want revenge too.
I think you
And I
want revenge against your parents.
no, I want revenge against heterosexual society. I want revenge against the whole system. I want revenge against the whole system. So, and yes, if I can't win, then I will set it up so that women try to win, and if they can't win, they'll at least leave behind a lot of damage, and people will be very damaged by the fact that they did this, and maybe next time they'll think about doing it a different way.
So you do want to destroy the pillars of Western civilization.
Yeah, well, I think Western civilization is about innovation and materialism and unnaturalism, and that we should use more of that and not less of it. And Western civilization is about escaping tradition and doing something brand new, and a new form of governance, and a new form of life, and new way of doing things, and trying something radical and innovative, and doing something bold and daring that no one's ever done before, and not just sitting in the mud and saying, well, this is the best we've ever had, and we're not going to try to make anything better.
Mm-hmm.
And also the West is about being different and changing the world so that it better serves you, rather than just giving in and saying, well, this is what the world fated for me, so I'm going to just accept it. Like, fight to change it. I mean, even the reason that feminism got anywhere in the West is because even white men agree amongst themselves that they should fight for their individual rights. I mean, because even amongst themselves, white men have this sense of like well, you're unique, you're different, then instead of just hiding it, express it and, try to change the world around you. And so they kind of understand when women and gays and blacks and Asians and all these other people are rebellious against them, because they say to themselves, well, I would do the same exact thing. That's why there is so much rebellion under white rule, because white men actually understand their subservient people underneath them, and they say to themselves, well, if I was in their position, I would rebel too. So there's a certain degree of sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain degree. Yeah, there's a certain degree of sympathy there.
Mm. I am getting rather tired.
Okay.
But Spacepan has got the link to this stream, but I guess he's not receiving at the moment, and he'll get the video, so perhaps he'll get in touch.
Yeah, I'll get the video to arrange for us to talk, because he needs to be put in this place, because he's pretty gross. He grosses me out a lot.
Have you had a look at his channel?
A little bit, yeah. I saw that he has all these different kinds of, things up there, and it just looks like, I have to look through it. I don't really want to look through it, because it's not. I mean, if all he's going to be doing is complaining about right-wing talking points that I hear like a million times over, but just from a gay perspective, and being like, a little like, gay Nazi that, worked for the party, meanwhile knowing that how anti-homosexual they are, then I'm really not interested. And he doesn't seem like the type of person who has any kind of like solutions. It doesn't seem like he's presenting any kind of documentation. I don't want to talk to you unless you have like a 25-point system about how to fucking change the world. I don't want to sit there and moan about, I don't hear you moan. I don't have the time to sit and listen to you whine. I just don't. That sounds like what he wants to do, and he wants to sit there and philosophize about how women weren't oppressed, even though every woman on earth seems to think so, because every woman is a feminist. I don't care. Like, every woman, like, really, when it comes down to it, she does want those rights. She does want power. She does want to be free from her husband. And that's this was all these men complain about with these trad thoughts, that they're all fucking. There's no such thing as a woman who's really not a feminist. They really all are.
Yes. So, what would you be talking about if you could be speaking to him right now?
I would be telling him that I think that he's, like an ant. In the gay community, we call them ant toms. Someone who's there to uphold the heterosexual order, and like, act like I forget what that movie is. It's either Mother Night or Mother Goose or whatever. It's like there's one of these Mother Goose Night or something, where there's these Nazis and they have a black man who believes that blacks are inferior, and he's like doing their work for them and stuff like that. That's what he reminds me of. A very like sad kind of creature.
Uncle Tom.
Well, they're called in the gay community. They're called Ant Toms.
Who's Anton?
Uncle Tom was the one he's used as a black stereotype, as a stereotype of a black person who basically is like, a wannabe. He's a willing slave. He's not just a slave. He was a willing slave of his master. And I think the thing was that he was willing to rat out his own niece, who was trying to escape slavery. And I think that's the story. I'm not 100% sure. But, basically he's an Ant Tom, and that he was snitching her out, his own niece, who was trying to escape from slavery. And, Ant Tom's, he's an Ant Tom. He's gay, he's trying to re-enslave gay people, and, probably by way of women. I don't think he has a very high opinion of himself or gay people. And, he's probably just one of these typical gay fascists that, and he comes off as like a libertarian, I guess, is what I was listening to him, like,
anarcho-capitalist.
Yeah, anarcho-capitalist, which is just like, he sounds like a very selfish type of, and that's just idiotic, that level of anarcho-capitalism. Like, you can't maintain this, like, a very complex civilization without any kind of like, really, like, you need government planning and things like that. and the governments come first, and then the corporations come second. And I do understand smaller government, but he just does seem like one of these libertarians that doesn't really have any kind of plan other than freedom. And he did say, oh, the only solution is to burn everything down and start all over again with a voluntary civilization. There's never going to be a voluntary civilization because you know what? Most people don't really want to work, and they don't all want to do it the same way. If you put 100 people in the room, what's going to happen? Everyone's going to want to do it a different way, and you just have to wait for the strongest personalities to take over and say, no, we're going to do it my way, and this is how we're going to do it. And that's just it's not going to be voluntary. And either they would commandeer everyone, because if they didn't do it, they would all starve to death, or people would do it because they don't want to starve to death, or they would pay them. They would pay them to do it. So his little utopia is not going to come true. And my only solution to the economic problem is that if gay men breed, then we'll be more noble, and then capitalism will work, because we won't be as selfish, and we'll give back, and we'll have higher wages, and we won't allow so much disparity, because we're just a little bit kinder, more what's the word, gracious with economic freedom than I think heterosexuals would be. I think heterosexuality is based on exploitation, and I just don't think gay men will be as exploitative with each other as heterosexuals have been. Hello?
Hello. Yeah, sorry. I did doze off. I didn't get that much sleep last night. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm going to let you go.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.